You ever carry a secret so long it turns into background noise? Mine started the summer of 1979. I was 17, working the graveyard shift at Weller's Gas and Garage just off County Road 12 in western Missouri. We were the only station open past midnight between Boonville and the state line, so we got our share of truckers, loaners, drifters, and the occasional runaway. Folks came in tired, sunburnt, smelling like diesel and cigarettes. Weller's had one pump, a busted Coke machine, and a back room that smelled like old rubber and wet dog. I didn't mind the work. It gave me a kind of quiet I liked. The kind that feels rare when you grow up in a small town where everybody's business is everyone else's entertainment. Mr. Weller didn't talk much. A wiry man in his 60s with skin like beef jerky and hands always stained with motor oil. He'd show up around noon, work on transmissions till sunset, then hand me the keys and disappear. Said I had a good head on my shoulders, which I took to mean I didn't steal and kept my mouth shut. Then she showed up. It was a Tuesday. I remember that much. Hot as sin. The kind of heat that melts the bugs to your windshield. She pulled in around 1:15 a.m. in a champagne-colored Chevy Malibu. The car was clean for this part of the county. She rolled down the window, and I saw her face. Maybe late 20s, auburn hair in a tight bun, pale, like she wasn't from around here. She looked tired, but not like she'd had a long day. More like she'd had a long decade. "Fill it regular, please," she said, voice like static from a distant radio station. I nodded, grabbed the pump, and tried not to stare. She didn't look at me, just watched the road behind her in the side mirror like she was waiting for someone to follow. Her tank took nearly 10 gallons. While I topped it off, I noticed something odd. Her trunk had 2 latches, the original and a second bolted in underneath, hand installed. Fresh. I didn't say a word. She paid in cash. No eye contact. No tip. Just a 20 slid across the counter and a glance toward the highway. "Thanks," I mumbled, handing her change. "You didn't see me," she said softly. Then she walked out. Didn't wait for a reply. Didn't even look back. And that was the last time I pumped her gas. But not the last time I saw her. I never told anyone about that night. Not my parents, not Mr. Weller, not even Lisa. My girlfriend at the time, who later became my wife, then my ex-wife. It wasn't out of fear. It just didn't feel like a story I was supposed to share. You ever feel that way? Like some moments come pre-wrapped in silence? Anyway, life went on. I joined the Army a year later, did 2 tours, came back, and took over Weller's when the old man passed. Kept the place running mostly out of habit. Gas got more expensive. Customers got ruder. But I liked the rhythm of it, the smell of oil, the hum of fluorescent lights, the sound of tires on gravel at 2 a.m. It was my kind of peace. Until last October. I was locking up when a man walked in. Tall, maybe 60. Gray suit. Out of place in a station like mine. He had a government look about him, the kind of guy who knows your name before you tell him. "You the owner?" he asked. "That's right." He nodded, polite, eyes scanning every detail of the shop, like it might confess something I wouldn't. "Mind if I ask you a strange question?" he said. "Stranger than that tie." He didn't smile. "Were you working here the night of July 17th, 1979? I felt the air go still. I hadn't thought about that date in years, but the way he said it, like it had been circled in red on a calendar in some cold basement for decades, brought everything back. "Why do you ask?" I said carefully. "Because the woman who filled up here that night was never seen again." He opened a folder. Inside was a faded photo of the woman. Auburn hair, sharp features, wearing the same expression I remembered. Her name was Elaine Mayfield. She was 29. Last confirmed sighting was here. Then nothing. I leaned back against the counter. "No one ever came asking before," I said. "It wasn't an open case before." he replied. He handed me a card and told me to call if I remembered anything else. But I already remembered everything. The latches on the trunk, the fear in her eyes, and the fact that I saw her again exactly 1 year later and never told a soul. You ever get that itch at the back of your mind? Like a pull toward a place you shouldn't go, but can't help it? That's what July 17th became for me. Every year, for reasons I couldn't explain, I'd end up behind the wheel near midnight, driving the same roads. Not like I was looking for something. More like I was waiting to not see something. Like proof that whatever happened that night was done and gone. But in 1980, 1 year to the day, I saw her again. It was just past 1 a.m. I was cruising east on County Road 12 in my '68 Ford. No traffic. Just the chirr of insects and the occasional rabbit darting across the blacktop. Then I saw the car. Champagne-colored Malibu. Parked just off the shoulder. Same make, same year, same everything. Headlights off. No driver in sight. I pulled over, heart pounding. The grass was high. Dew clung to my boots as I walked around to the front. There were fresh tire tracks leading into the brush, too narrow for a truck, just wide enough for a single vehicle. Then I saw the footprints, barefoot, a woman's from the size, leading from the car toward the woods. And something else, a second set, heavier, boots, male. I didn't have a flashlight, just my Zippo, and that flickering flame wasn't going to do much in the trees. But I followed anyway. Maybe 100 feet in, I found the campsite, if you could call it that. Blanket, canteen, a small fire pit still warm, and a photo pinned to a tree with a hunting knife. It was her, the same woman from the station. But the photo was old, creased, taken from behind, like someone had followed her for a long time. And on the bottom, scrawled in red marker, "She won't hide from me again." That's when I heard the snap. Twigs behind me. I turned. Nothing. No sound, no movement. Just that gut certainty that someone was watching. I backed out, fast, made it to the car, and drove like hell back to the station. Called the sheriff's office from the payphone outside. They found nothing. No car, no footprints, no photo. Not even the fire pit. They said I'd been out in the heat too long. Maybe had a drink. Maybe imagined it. But I know what I saw. And it wasn't the last time someone tried to erase the truth. 2 weeks after the visit from the man in the gray suit, I saw him again. This time, he didn't come alone. It was early morning, maybe 6:30, and I was sweeping the lot, waiting for the delivery truck to bring in oil and brake pads. A black SUV pulled in. Newer model, no plates. Gray suit stepped out first, still sharp, still unreadable. He gave me that nod again, like we'd shared something unspoken. But it was the man who got out of the passenger side that froze me in place. Bigger guy, built like a tree trunk. Wearing jeans, a plain polo, and sunglasses, even though the sun hadn't crested the trees yet. He didn't speak, just stood behind Gray's suit, like a stone-faced shadow. "We have more questions," Gray's suit said. "About Elaine?" He raised an eyebrow. "So you do remember her?" I didn't answer. He stepped closer and held up a photo. A blurry shot clearly taken from a distance. It was my station, nighttime. And a woman filling her car. Her face turned toward the camera. Slightly older than I remembered, but definitely her. And the timestamp? July 17th, 2019. 40 years to the day. I felt my throat close. "Where did you get this?" "Traffic camera, eastbound shoulder of County 12, 1:11 a.m. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was impossible. That's not possible, I said. That car hasn't existed for decades. You sure? He asked. Because someone driving one matching that description pulled into your station that night. He flipped to the next image. Me, from the security footage. Staring into the dark, hands frozen above the register. Like I'd seen a ghost. Maybe I had. What are you not telling us? Gray Suit asked. What are you not telling me? I fired back. He smiled. First time I'd seen that. We're trying to find her before someone else does. The big guy behind him cracked his knuckles. Still silent. She's not running, Gray Suit continued. She's hiding. From someone. Maybe from something. But she always circles back to the same place. Here. Why me? I asked. Why this station? He leaned in. Because you're the only one she ever spoke to. Then they got in the SUV and drove off. No warning, no card this time. Just a trail of dust and a fresh knot in my gut. That night, I watched the footage myself. July 17th. 1:11 a.m., and sure enough, a champagne Malibu pulled in. But the camera glitched, froze for 2 seconds. When it came back, the pump was swaying like someone had just finished filling up. But the car was gone. Just like that, after the visit from Gray Suit and his silent friend, I couldn't sleep. I kept playing the footage back, frame by frame, watching the car materialize and vanish like a skipped heartbeat. It didn't make sense. It shouldn't make sense. So I did what any stubborn old man with too much history and not enough answers would do. I went digging. Weller's had a crawl space beneath the back office. Most folks don't even know it's there. You have to lift the oil-stained carpet behind the breaker box and pry open a warped plywood hatch with a crowbar. I hadn't been down there in years. Decades, probably. It was cooler than I expected, and the smell hit me first. Dust, rust, and something else. Not rot, not mold. Something metallic. Old blood, maybe. I found the box wedged between the cinder block wall and the foundation beam. A military ammo can, olive green, dented on one side. No label. Just a single strip of masking tape across the lid with faded marker. July 79, M. My heart stopped. I pulled it out, hands shaking like I was 17 again. Inside was a bundle of photographs, all of her. Some from behind, some through windows. One, taken from across the street, showed her sitting at a diner counter, stirring coffee. Another, the last one in the stack, showed her asleep in the back seat of her car, a shadow cast over her face. Tucked underneath was something worse, a cassette tape labeled in the same hand. REC number 5, do not copy. And a folded map. County Road 12 was circled in red. So was a clearing about 2 miles into the woods, the same place I'd found the campsite all those years ago. That's when I realized this wasn't hers. It wasn't Elaine's box. It belonged to whoever was following her. Someone had been tracking her long before she showed up at Weller's. Long before she told me I hadn't seen her. And they'd used my station as part of their trap, or worse, their game. I burned the tape. I don't regret that. But I kept the photos, because even after all this time, part of me still thought maybe she'd come back. And that night, she did. It was just after 1 a.m. on July 17th. Again. I'd made a habit of staying late at the station on that date, pretending to do inventory, wiping down already clean counters, sweeping invisible dust. Truth is, I couldn't leave. Not anymore. Not on that night. That's when I saw the headlights. Slow, deliberate, like someone driving through a memory. A champagne-colored Malibu rolled into the lot. Not a replica. The same damn car. It looked like it hadn't aged a day. Chrome still polished, paint smooth, Only thing out of place was the driver. It was her, Elaine, older now, or maybe not. Her hair was loose this time, her face thinner. She stepped out slowly, hands visible like she expected trouble. Her eyes scanned the lot, then settled on me through the glass. She walked in without a word. We just stared at each other for a moment, me behind the counter, her in the same yellow sundress from the photos. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Finally, she spoke. "You kept it," I blinked. "What?" "The station. You still run it." I nodded slowly. "And you still drive that Malibu?" She gave a tired smile. It never let me down. Silence settled between us, heavy, familiar. I slid a stool out for her and she sat, like it was a booth at a diner and we were just catching up over coffee. "Why now?" I asked. "Because they're close." "Gray suit?" Remember the others? The ones who came before him. He's just the mop-up crew. "Who are they, Elaine?" She looked me straight in the eye, and her voice lost all warmth. "They don't have names. Just initials. EMCRJD, like files in a drawer. They follow people who know too much. People who disappear from the map but not from memory." "What do they want?" She didn't answer. Instead, she pulled something from her coat, a photo. It was of me. Taken from across the lot, recent. I was locking up, same flannel shirt I wore last week. She slid it across the counter. "They've turned their attention to you." I stared down at the image. My mouth felt dry. "Why me?" "Because you remembered," she whispered, "and because I came back." Just then, we heard a car pull in, tires crunching gravel. Elaine stood up, face suddenly tense. "Do you still have the map?" I nodded. "Good. Then you know where this ends." She turned and walked out, the bell above the door giving one soft chime. I reached for the switch to kill the lights, just as two men stepped out of a black SUV. And Elaine was gone. Again, I didn't sleep that night. Once those men stepped out of the SUV, same model, same license plateless ride as before. I killed the lights and waited behind the counter, my old shotgun resting across my lap. But they didn't come in. They just stood out there in the dark, like two statues staring at the door. After 10 minutes, they got back in the car and drove off. No sound but gravel shifting under tires. That was the moment I realized they weren't looking for Elaine anymore. They were waiting for me to lead them to her. And maybe I did. Because the next morning, I packed up the photos, grabbed the map, and drove straight out to the woods off County Road 12. Same trailhead I'd found in 1980. Same eerie silence. Same half-remembered turns through the trees. But the deeper I went, the more things didn't line up. Trees had grown in where the trail used to be. What was once a narrow footpath now felt like untouched forest. The clearing, gone. No fire pit. No sign of where the car had been. Nothing. Like the woods had healed over, or been rewritten. I stood there for a while, map in hand, tracing the same circle drawn 40 years ago. I checked my compass. It spun. No joke. Spun like I was standing inside a magnet. That's when I heard the voice. "You should have left it alone." I turned. Gray suit. Alone this time. He stepped out from behind a tree like he'd been there all along. His shoes weren't muddy. His shirt didn't have a wrinkle. He looked like he'd just stepped out of a boardroom, not a forest. "What is this place?" I asked. "It's a bleed," he said. "A place where old choices echo." What does that even mean? It means you were never supposed to remember, but you did. You always do. He took something from his coat. A photo. It was me, again, but younger. 17, filling up Elaine's car. But in this version, she was looking at me, smiling. "This is the original," he said. "The first loop." "Loop?" He ignored the question and stepped closer. She tried to break the pattern, but patterns are stronger than people. "Where is she?" "Gone, for now." I felt the anger rise in me. 40 years of it. All the unanswered questions, the hints, the disappearances, and now riddles and photos that changed like dreams. "Why me?" I said. "Why this place?" He looked me dead in the eye. "Because some memories refuse to die, and some ghosts wear skin." Then he turned and walked back into the woods. I should have followed him, but something told me if I did, I wouldn't come back. I didn't go back to the woods after that day. Something about the air there stuck to my skin like oil, thick, metallic, and wrong. I told myself I was done, that I'd throw away the photos, sell the station, start over. But you don't walk away from a story once you've become a part of it. And I was a part of hers. About a week later, I was in the garage replacing a busted fuel line when I noticed something strange beneath pump number 2. The concrete was cracked, thin hairline fractures around the base, like veins. I'd never noticed them before. Weller poured that slab himself in '58, said it would outlast both of us. But something was off. On impulse, I rented a jackhammer and started digging. A few inches down, I hit metal. Not piping, not storage tank. A steel hatch. There were no records of it, no blueprints. Weller never mentioned it, and I worked that ground 100 times over the years. The hatch had no handle, just a shallow groove. I pried it open with a crowbar and stared down into a narrow tunnel reinforced with rusted beams. The smell that rushed up hit me like a punch. Old paper, motor oil, and something I can only describe as memory. I went down. At the bottom was a room no bigger than a tool shed. Fluorescent light flickered overhead. In the center, on a dusty table, sat a box. Not a crate, not a file cabinet. A music box. I recognized it immediately. The same one I'd seen on Elaine's dash back in '79. Shaped like a carousel, chipped pink paint, little brass horses frozen mid-gallop. I turned the key. It played 3 notes. Then stopped. A compartment slid open in the side. Inside was a tape recorder, already running. I pressed play. "If you're hearing this," her voice whispered, "they haven't won." My knees went weak. They erased me, over and over. Different names, different faces, but you always remember. That's why I came back here. Because this place remembers too. The tape crackled. You weren't just the kid who pumped my gas. You were the one who let me hide. The one who stalled them long enough for me to escape. They're not chasing me now. They're chasing you. Because you're the last thread in a story they can't cut clean. So do what you do best. Keep it running. Click. The tape stopped, but something else began. Faint music coming from the pump above me. A hum, a whir, and then silence. I climbed back up, sealed the hatch. Haven't touched it since, but I kept the music box. Every July 17th it plays, just 3 notes. And on the security footage, the Malibu still pulls in, like clockwork. Same time, same pump. Sometimes I wonder if Elaine's really gone, or if she's caught in some loop, circling this place like a moth to the only light that remembers her. I still run Weller's. Not because I have to, because it's the last place on Earth where the past still shows up for gas. Thank you for spending this time with me. If you enjoyed the story, give it a like and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next one.